Tonight on The Struggle, Melbourne pays tribute with legumes for a leg spinner. We tell Canberra how a student needs to budget, and innovative alternatives to petrol. Welcome, I'm your new host, Ren. Ash Barty caught Australia off guard when the world #1 tennis champ announced her sudden retirement at the age of 25. While Ash has received well wishes from across the globe, the news has been tough to swallow for fellow 25-year-olds, given most are still seeking unpaid internships, let alone getting a job they'll one day be able to retire from. One of Australia's most successful women's tennis players. What's that doing here? Last week's news. Anyway, moving from one Aussie legend to another, and Shane Warne's state memorial service will be held Wednesday night at the MCG. In the lead-up, we thought we'd gauge how Melburnians are paying their respects to the king of spin, so we cross now to our reporter on the ground.
Thank you, Ren. Coming to you live from Blackrock in this pre-recorded video in Croydon. You might have heard of Shane Warne's legendary love of baked beans. This began well before I was conceived during the India Test match of 1988. Warnie struggled with the local diet of spicy food, and in a move that predated Uber Eats, he requested 6 tons of beans and spaghetti be sent to him and his teammates. So as Victoria prepares to farewell the Aussie cricket legend, an ultimate tribute to the leg spinner is appearing on our streets. It's a call to action for Australia, beans out for Warnie, that has struck a chord across this cricket-loving nation. So much that reporters are claiming that panic buying is wreaking havoc on our local supermarkets once again. The phenomenon has seen supermarket shelves stripped of thousands of cans of beans in an echo of pandemic panic buying. But if you don't put your beans out for Warnie, you will be deemed un-Australian. Other heartening Warnie tributes can be seen across the Melbourne suburbs, like this young boy playing a game of cricket. According to him, you'll need 16 cans to build your own makeshift cricket stumps out of Warnie's favourite beans. These are humble beans for a humble being. Did Warnie garnish his beans with coriander and chives? Did he eat his beans with a side of buttered toast? Nope. Just lukewarm beans was all this champion needed. So Melbourne, put your beans out for Warnie as we farewell the homegrown cricket legend. Warnie was the biggest fan of the musical Fruit. So as we remember him, one childhood rhyme immediately comes to mind. Beans, beans, the magical fruit. The more you eat, the more you'll toot. The more you toot, the better you...
Right. Well, we might just leave that one there. Well, with the federal budget said to be handed down tomorrow night, everyone wants a slice of the pie, or to be more precise, a scoop of ScoMo's curry. So we hit the streets to find out what people are looking for in this year's budget. Pies, curries, or otherwise.
And we will not stop pressuring the government until we see climate justice.
I hope Scott Morrison hears us and listens and maybe will stop funding fossil fuels.
Fascinating insights. Well, with an ongoing pandemic, war, and Clive Palmer spending millions on another federal election campaign, there's no doubt about it. We're living in scary times. So we've enlisted the help of an expert to navigate the peril. Let's head over to our very own doomsday prepper, Natkis Devereen.
Unless you were very comfortably living under a nuke-proof rock like me, you'd have noticed petrol prices have hit an all-time high of $2.20 of late. Now, the federal government has discussed temporarily cutting fuel access to help alleviate costs, but I think we can all take this idea as the election sweetener that it is. Me, I always knew this day would come, so I feel it's my duty to reveal the real key to our survival. I'd like to introduce you to kombu-car, the home remedy I've been refining for years. Now, to get us started, we're going to have to use an ingredient that will give it some real kick, you know? I recommend a few cups of that good old Brett Sutton's aftershave, rumoured to be Dolce & Gabbana. If there's anything that's going to get your car rolling, it's DILF energy. Next on the ingredients list, tall poppies. Now, we have cut most of these down, so they're incredibly rare. I suggest you try searching for the flower in schoolyards where children aren't quite Australian enough to know that success doesn't belong in this country. And finally, the ingredient that will make or break this recipe, it's pure, raw audacity. Now, unlike poppies, we've got this in the bucket loads. But today I'll be throwing in that good old Women's Network logo, but Any old Herald Sun op-ed will surely do the trick. Now, once you've gathered all of these ingredients and thrown them in the pot, you're going to want to heat it up somehow. Now, for this step, most methods won't work. A simple stove, microwave oven, or even just oven, they're all absolutely useless. Instead, you're going to have to gaslight it. That's right, gaslight it. Now, unless you're a Catholic politician or priest, this probably won't come naturally to you, so I'll give you a few suggestions. Start with something simple like, we'll meet our emissions targets. Can China say the same? If you're feeling bolder, try out, our thoughts and prayers are with Ukrainians. And no, not just because these refugees are white. But when in doubt, anything with the words Christian or Porter, it'll light that batch right up. And there you have it. It's vegan, ethical, and most importantly, not authorised by the Australian government Canberra. So fuel up and get back to your bunkers. This is just the beginning.
Thanks, Natkiss. Time for a quick break. Thank you. Welcome back. Over to South Australia, where Labor claimed victory in the state election under the leadership of Peter Malinauskas, ousting the Liberals from government. As if that wasn't a large enough blow for the Libs, former Premier Stephen Marshall was facing the prospect of losing his seat. We're glad he found it. Lost furniture aside, political pundits are reading quite a bit into the results of this election. And here for his take is Max Payne.
Hey, make sure you get my good side up there. Yeah, I know it's a podcast. This is for the YouTube channel, duh. It's so hard to find good cameramen these days. Welcome, bros and broskies, to the PainCast, episode 1. I'm Max Payne, and I'm so alpha I once bought $10,000 worth of plasterboard just to practice punching holes in it. Guys, this week I want to talk about Peter Malinauskas, the daggy daddy of Australian politics. For those of you who aren't as educated as I am, last week Malinauskas led the Labor Party to a landslide win in South Australia, campaigning on fair pay for workers and cutting down wait times for ambulances. And first off, I just have to say, why would anyone ever wait for an ambulance? Just walk to the hospital. Be a man. Anyway, a year ago, this guy was a nobody, putting political commentators to sleep. Now he's winning landslides for Labor? What gives? According to some sources, at least, a photo of him at the pool may have helped his election chances. Now that makes sense to me. 90% of my Tinder profile is pictures of me at the pool. And I want to preface this. I'm going to show the photo. I am not usually in the habit of looking at photos of shirtless men, but audience, for this time, I'll make an exception for you. Let's have a look at this infamous pool photo. What's this? Someone put a drawing of a penis on my desk. That's weird. Anyway, let's look at that photo. Oh. Well, I mean, he's looking pretty fit, but is he fit to govern? Doubtful. His advertisements must have brainwashed the public or something. That's the only logical explanation. And if it was the photo, this kind of voting, that means it's just so superficial. Of course voters are always going to go for the guys with the chiseled pecs, the washboard abs, and the plan to revamp statewide health services. That's just basic attraction, That's just instinctual. That's DNA. Also, at this point, I have to wonder if Peter's a fan of my show. This new chief, has clearly been following the Max Payne and Gain workout plan. You know what I'm saying? But you know what, bros? I'm going to prove that this ripped Roo isn't all he's cracked up to be. I'm officially challenging Peter Malinauskas to a fight. Come on, bro. You and me. We're going to wrestle in the mud man to man. And the winner gets to be premier. Unless he's chicken. What's that? You smell poultry? Nah, that's Peter the chicken, about to be eaten up by the top dog around here. Me, Max Payne. For those of you listening at home who can't see it, my abs are way better than Peter's. Oh, I gotta go hit the gym. I'm out.
Guys, is it safe for me to look at? Recently, the scandal of the season blew up on scripted drama masquerading as reality TV show Married at First Sight. Renowned for its less than calculable success rate, the series sees complete strangers exchange wedding vows upon meeting for the first time, before forcing them to share a Sydney apartment decorated by Kmart for 2 months, until they become as disappointing to one another as a late-night Tinder rendezvous. It's the ideal millennial love story, knights in emotionally unavailable armour and all. Drama arose recently as one contestant circulated another's OnlyFans nude throughout the rest of the group. This left most young viewers wondering, why can't someone leak my nudes instead of my dad always tagging me in his sourdough and jam posts? One viewer even tweeted, OnlyFans, what about OnlyJams? I'd much rather my hot girl summer files were floating around the web than orange marmalade and hashtag lockdown vibes from my 40-something father. It seems revenge porn isn't quite as effective as it used to be, while parents with smartphones is where the real damage is being done. On that note, we're off to another break.
Melbourne, have you seen the headlines? Almost 1 in 10 properties for sale have been discounted. Houses are on sale, sale, sale. It's bargains galore. Stop the details saying 1 in 15 properties have gone up in price. You've got to believe the clickbait if you want that quick settlement date. Whether you're dealing with Ray White, Berry Plant or Scott Cam, you're gonna save a heap. So get to an auction and put in a bid, cause your future home is going cheap, cheap, cheap.
Welcome back again. So moving on to our...
It's my segment, pop off. All right, welcome to the very first segment of what I didn't learn at uni. Cue the intro. Well, this is a segment where you get to know all the deets of what universities doesn't really teach you from the people whose university days are now behind them. Today, we have a special guest. She is an investigative journalist, a Golden Quill Award recipient, an author, a Walkley Award recipient, a former High Court correspondent for the Australian newspaper, and above all, perhaps more importantly, a Monash University graduate. Here's the interview that yours truly conducted with Louise Milligan. So, welcome Louise. It's great to have you on board with us for our very first segment of what we didn't learn at the uni. So please don't mind the background. I'm just
No, that's fine. I've got it.
So let's head right into it then. So you've won a Walkley. That's like a big...
I've won 3 actually.
Oh, well, 3 Walkley. So yes. So could you share with us, how do you win a Walkley? Like, was there something at the university that taught you to win one?
There is absolutely no way that you could teach at university how to win a Walkley. And I think if they started trying to teach it, you should pretty much not go to that university because they're teaching you the wrong thing. Because journalism's not about doing a story to win a Walkley. And there are hundreds of journalists, probably thousands of journalists around the country who have been working for years and years and years and are very, very good, but will never win a Walkley and have never won a Walkley. I won my first one after 17 years in journalism. So it takes a really long time, yeah. And the thing about it is, I kind of think it's sort of like thinking about journalism from a Walkley perspective or an award-winning perspective. It's sort of like the wrong way around it. Like you have to go into journalism wanting to find the truth. And I think the only way that you can do that in a way that ultimately might win you a Walkley, if you're really lucky and the cards fall in the way that they should, is if you have experience of life and if you develop empathy and I often say it's like you need your edges knocked off you to become a good journalist. You need to swallow your pride. You need to meet people at their kind of level and develop an understanding with them, to trust people. Because the thing about, like, I'm an investigative journalist, but to be a good journalist, you need to get people to trust you. That's the number one thing.
Yeah, like as a journalist, it's the art of journalism itself is you're learning constantly. The learning never stops.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been a journalist for 22 years and yeah, I'm constantly learning. And that's the thing, like you constantly have to sort of trample down your ego. And it's one of the things actually when I started in journalism that, you know, and I think this is a good thing for students to sort of know, like most people who study journalism are smart people, right? They're like, I was in class, that kid, first up with the hand. I was the dux of the school. I was a straight A student. I did law at university and then I did a graduate diploma in journalism. And I was offered jobs at all 3 newspapers. You know, I was going to set the world on fire, right? But then you get into journalism and there are a lot of people who are just like, I don't give a shit about all of that. You got to prove yourself. You got to break stories, girlfriend. And, you know, they they put you in your place like that. And at the start, you sort of just realize, oh, you know, I'm not a big shot. I'm just a minnow.
So now, perhaps the most important question, how do you balance lectures and going to parties and socialize from a student's perspective?
What do you mean at university?
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a funny story. When I was doing my grad dip in journalism, we were the naughtiest year that they had in a very, very long time. There was a group of us who were all very good friends and we partied a lot. And our group did better in terms of getting jobs than any group they'd had for years and years and years. Now, I'm not telling you not to do your assignments because we still did our assignments. We still got it done. But I think being a social person is actually a really good thing as a journalist because it means that you're someone who can connect with other people. Unfortunately, it's why in the past, not as much now, but a lot of journalists were alcoholics. Like when I started in the industry, there were still people who you couldn't rely on after lunchtime because they were too drunk. The problem is now there are so many expectations on journalists with the online demands and social media demands and all of that have become absolutely integral to the job that you can't get away with being a functioning alcoholic anymore. and I don't think, I'm not advocating for functioning alcoholism in any way, shape or form, but being someone who can, you know, flit around a party and meet lots of people and charm them, on the other hand, is an excellent thing to do. And I've got many stories in those sorts of contexts. So
that's it. Louise Milligan just told me to party. I'm going to parties.
Yeah. You heard it here first.
Phew. So that was our interview with Louise Milligan.
Okay, get up,
now
mate.
we can move. Oh my God.
Come on.
Okay.
Move along. All right, well, let's get back on track, shall we? And let's cross to Brighton mum, Linda Crawford, to see how her day has been. Thank you, darling. You look gorgeous today, might I add. So the other day, my daughter Olivia was on the TikToks and a short clip of Kim Kardashian came up. Now, my family does actually quite like keeping up with the Kardashians. I mean, they're obviously quite a fabulous family, but they also clearly have a really great work ethic. I mean, look at their businesses, look at their houses, look at their bottoms. You have to have a great work ethic to be earning the money needed to afford these things. Roll the clip.
Best advice for women in business: get your ass up and work. It seems like nobody wants to work these days.
Now, I'm not a big fan of the profanity she uses, but it's what people need to be hearing right now. Like, you don't just get a bottom like Kim Kardashian by just sitting on it. I know it's boring walking around the same block of Brighton every day. I get it. Been there, done that. But you can't just get lazy. And that's the problem with this young generation. Like, it's honestly not that difficult to become a successful businesswoman. For example, my darling Olivia is a little bit of a young entrepreneur, actually. Olivia's really into fashion, so we hired Livy her own designer, marketing team and assistant, and in just a few weeks, she was able to launch her own swimwear line all by herself. Live, Laugh, Love, it's called because Olivia's nickname is Liv. It's quite cute, really. Honestly, when you put your mind to something and get off your bottom, amazing things happen. Nothing just gets handed to you on a silver platter. You really have to work for the things you want. What is this? Anyway, well, at least that's my ethos, which apparently doesn't really align with the Andrews government. Over a Nobu brunch yesterday with my girlfriends, I heard that as of a few weeks ago, 150,000 Victorians in hospitality and retail and, things like that, will be given $750 sick leave when they take a week off work. Like, when did it become acceptable to just hand out money, especially to people who aren't even willing to work full time? It's just ridiculous. My Olivia sat at our beautiful dining table packing those bikini orders until she was just completely exhausted, darling. I had to send her off to the hot springs because she was just so stressed. And I can tell you now, darling, the Andrews government did not pay for that. I think I'm due for a trip to the hot springs after this interview. Back to you, Ren.
You deserve it, Linda. Now it's time for a quick check of the weather.
SBS suggests the Liberal Party will hold off on announcing the election depending on whether they're able to gain ground in opinion polls. Though a southeasterly front of dirty looks and dodge handshakes from flood and fire victims leaves this verdict foggy. As the religious discrimination bill and federal budget loom, creating high-pressure systems, the election date may also depend on whether Scott Morrison will settle for least liked or tornado his way to most hated man in the country. Voters are also wondering whether his unofficial election campaign will see the Prime Minister receive a Cert 2 in hairdressing or release an EP of the acoustic ukulele covers to appeal to the youth he hopes to marginalize. Either way, heavy showers of hypocrisy are expected right across the nation.
Always good to keep on top of the weather forecast. Well, that brings us to the end of the show. A huge thank you to all those who make this show possible, particularly Scott Morrison for providing us with so much content to choose from. Keep up the good work. Until next week, the struggle. It's real.